What's up, real MVPs? Ricky Widmer here, and welcome into another edition of MVP Games Live right here on twitch.tv/MVP Vids. I am joined, as I always am, by my beautiful co-host, Soapy Muffin.
Hola, everybody.
Soapy, how you doing today? How's your day been?
It's been pretty good. After I got out of work, I've just been asleep the whole time.
Yeah.
So hopefully I wake up halfway through this.
Those are some of the best days, though, where it's like, fuck it, I'm just going to take a nap. I'm going to be dead to the world for a little bit. But I do agree with you. Like, here's my problem waking up, and I don't know if you have the same thing. Like, today when I woke up, I had the thought of, like, I could get up now, try to work on what I have to work on for today, and struggle through that first hour. Or I could play iPhone games or watch things on Twitter for about an hour to kind of like wake myself up and then go do those. Kind of like a, hey, I need to pre-wake up before I do stuff.
I don't struggle with that. It's more or less it just takes me a little bit to get up.
Soapy's like, I'm up and I'm like almost raring to go, but we got a jam-packed show, Soaps. We were complaining the last few days, the last few shows that there's not much to talk about, but the great Xbox gods have bestowed upon us probably the biggest news that we could have. So we're going to be talking next-gen Xbox and next-gen in general. But before we get into everything, though, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. Let's pitch the Patreon, patreon.com/MVPvids. If you want to help support the channel, that is how you do it. You want to interact with the show, silver tier and above is how you do that. And thank you to our platinum sponsors, Pat Hill and Philly Sean. Also, join the Discord. It's a great community of all the real MVPs, patrons, non-patrons, the boys, which are Soaps and us, talking about everything that we love, movies, TV, gaming, sports, everything under the sun is in that Discord. It's a great way to get involved and communicate with everyone from the real MVP family. And then last but not least, I said we're on Twitch right now, twitch.tv/MVPvids. Record the show Monday through Friday live on that channel, but we are also on YouTube, MVP Entertainment, where you can get exclusive content away from the live shows that we do. But if you ever miss one, you can catch it on there as well. But Soaps, the first thing we've got on the docket for today, like I said, the Xbox gods looked at us and they said, you've been complaining that you haven't had the news. Hey, this might be a short show. This might be a shorter show than usual. Well, Soapy, they came to us and they said, we got you covered. Ricky, Soapy, we got you covered. And Soapy, not only do we know that the Xbox Series S is confirmed by Microsoft, it's going to come out November 10th. The pricing of it will be $299, but there are also leaks saying that the Xbox Series X is going to be $599. So Soapy, the one reveal we do have is the Series X, the Series S. The Series X, it's all speculation right now. Let's start with the Series S. What are your thoughts on the system now that we know this is what we're getting, these are the specs for it, this is the price, this is when it's coming out?
That thing looks really fucking small to that mini fridge that's coming out.
60%
like that's
smaller.
The main thing. Yeah, because I think if they said like it was like 1/4 the size or something like that, which is crazy. Which, just to imagine that, all you need to do is just get rid of the disk drive and look at that. You don't have like a fucking small Mac truck that you have to pay for. But I'm really excited for it, especially because the fact of, I think this is the first ever like fully digital console. And I'm really excited to see how people handle that.
You're saying like for Xbox or just in general?
In general.
Okay.
I don't know if there's been another one.
Well, the only reason why I say in general is because like technically, when PlayStation announced the PS5, they also have come out and said there's going to be a digital only PS5. So like really this whole next gen, this is the first time Xbox and PlayStation, we're seeing a all digital version of the console, which I'll be honest, I kind of like. I feel like, of course, PlayStation, I want to try this time. Knock on wood, I'll have the funds to get both an Xbox and a PlayStation this go around eventually, but obviously PlayStation is going to be the one I dive into first because that's my home. And the thing for me is the reason I like the choice of the digital console, the all digital console, is because I feel like that's where we are going. I've said this before on shows. I feel like that's where we're going as a gaming community. And I feel like that's where I've personally gone. Like, I made the push, Kingdom Hearts was the last hard copy game I bought since, that would be January of 2019. Since then, I've basically been all digital, where it's like I'm buying just digital games, and I get the collecting side of it, but for me, it's just easier. It's easier to be able to say, hey, I've got everything on the cloud. I can download it to my system whenever I want, and I don't have to where did that disc go? Oh, this disc got fucked up. Oh, I can't play this game anymore. So for me, it's actually refreshing that next gen, and now with Xbox, they're the first ones to basically have it on the market, that you're getting that digital only kind of choice with the Series S.
Yeah, and especially because I fully agree with you on the going digital thing I think it's a good option to give it, because obviously, like you said, collectors are probably not going to be happy about it because, one of their collecting items aren't going to be a thing, or at least not as readily available. But even at that, it's also, there's not a lot of people who collect new gen games. It's just kind of like people like having it in display in the background.
Yeah.
For instance, if someone has a gaming room, it's they like to have shelves just to have the games they play.
Like how back in the day you'd have the DVD collection where it's look at all my DVDs, and you'd have them most people would have them all perfectly lined up. Ooh, they're alphabetical and stuff like that. I was never like that, but there are people out there that are.
Yeah. So I think with the collector crowd, they're going to be pleased because obviously, you can still buy a physical copy. I think this is also a way of kind of, I want to say, with the way that the console is, I think this is them trying to kind of get a thing out of the way that Xbox normally does. So what Xbox will do is, they've repeated this for 360 and the Xbox One.
Okay.
Is whenever one console launches, it's a couple months later, they're like, oh, here's the Xbox Slim. Looks like they're already getting that out of the way.
Yeah.
So I almost wonder if they. Sorry, I don't mean to.
No, go ahead. You finish your thought, and then I'll come in.
I almost wonder, and this is something that just I was thinking, do they take these two consoles in two separate directions as each other? Because these can technically be two completely different entities of a game. Because obviously we don't know what type of disk drive that the Xbox One X is going to have, because we don't basically know jack diddly shit about it still. We know kind of the specs for it, but I was almost wondering, could the Xbox One X have a multi-layered disk drive to where you don't just have one disk in there? You could have 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Or something like that. To where basically, I almost said a cassette tape, but cassette tapes were not like that at all.
The only thing that we know about the X right now, by them announcing the Series S, they've kind of given us 2 for sure's about the Series X. They've basically, so this is according to WindowsCentral.com, that Microsoft has partially confirmed reports that the Series X will be $299, while the Series X is going to be that $499 price tag. We also know, because they're saying, in my mind, it's because they're saying this, because they're saying that, hey, the S is going to come out on November 10th, I'm assuming then that means the X is also coming out on the 10th. I don't know why Microsoft would do something to where they're going to split their own fan base, to say, hey, the cheaper one's coming out first, but then the later one, no, they should both come out November 10th. The only thing is, how much more powerful is the Series X going to be? Because when it comes to the Series S, everything that they've announced with it, and I'm reading this from IGN, they say The Series S is going to be an all-digital console capable of running games at 140p, 1440p at up to 120 frames per second. It'll be ray tracing supported, 4K scaling for games, and it's also going to have, like we said, that all digital. The only thing is the gigabyte, the hard drive, is 512 gigabytes of a hard drive on there. And for me, the question that I'm going to ask you, Soaps, is do you think that Xbox, because I don't think we've heard anything about this, do we get just two versions where it's like if you want all digital, the Series X is your go-to, but if you get the Series X, you can go digital, but you get the disc tray? Or could they do the same thing that Sony's doing? That it's like, hey, you want to get the Series X, but there's going to be a digital version as well as the CD version to it? Or will it just be here's the S and here's the X?
I think it's kind of hard to come to that conclusion with Xbox, and it's just because we basically heard like nothing.
Yeah.
On the Xbox X front. I think the X is still going to have that disc drive because I think that's probably why the price is so much. Like, obviously, it's not the only reason why the price is higher, but like, I wouldn't be surprised if that's one of the major reasons it's higher. But also, and this was just the whole theory that I had for. Okay, cool. Never mind. Fuck my brain. It just didn't. It just decided not to work for a second there.
Your brain's just like, cool. I'm gonna shut off, bro. It's cool.
But I think one of the things that, like, why the Xbox One, I think it's going to be so much more expensive along with the disc tray. I think its performance is like meant to be better.
Yeah.
Like, I think they say that, like, oh, the Xbox One S is capable of doing this. That's not saying it's going to do it. Like, it's if you are playing a very certain type of game, it'll run 120 FPS. But it's like you got to be playing a game that, like, it's not too demanding. Because, like, you'd have to be playing, like, Minecraft.
Like Fortnite.
Yeah, Fortnite, Minecraft. Basically, the games that people play a fucking absolute shit ton of.
Yeah.
So, and I think with the X, it's going to be, like, more of, like, oh, it can run the larger games at that. Because, like, when Cyberpunk comes out, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, the S can't run it at 120 frames, but the Xbox Series X could.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm getting the X.
And that kind of leads me into what I feel like many are going to get to this, what's the word I'm thinking of? This conclusion when it comes to the two. Basically, the S, we now know for sure I said it to you and Dave before we went live it's the casual console where it's for the person that's like, I like to play my Xbox, but I'm not the person that's going to buy every new game that comes out. I love playing my Xbox. Maybe I play Fortnite, Minecraft, and I like to just kind of have the Xbox. And hey, if I do buy Halo, I buy Halo and I play it. But I'm not a hardcore gamer. I'm that like more casual Xbox fan. Like it fits perfectly to that, to where it's got the specs to run your Fortnite at 120 frames per second. It's still going to run those games to a degree to where you're like, oh, this is not like, you're not going to say, oh, this is a shit console. I should have spent more money for the X. But it's that entry of like, because the big thing that people have to look at is how much am I going to, the time you put into it coming out to the price that it's at. Like Dave would always make the rationality when him and I were in our like big WoW days, as high school and college kids, is he would say, Ricky, you got to think about it. It's about what, $15 a month? Think about how many hours we play. And he actually did the math. And with how much we were playing WoW on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, it was like a penny an hour. To where it's like, well, when you put it in that sense, it's a pretty good fucking deal. And that's what people are going to have to make that decision here of like, if I get the X, how much time am I going to put into this? Is it just going to be something that sits there more times than not? And I'm just going to be like, well, fuck, I shouldn't have spent nearly $500,000 on this console, where now you have the S. Obviously, it's going to be, if you're going to be someone that's going to use your Xbox, like, you would be a perfect example of your Series X or Soapy, because you're going to use your Xbox a lot. You're going to need that hard disk space. You're going to play all the big Xbox games. Like, you are the X consumer, but there are people out there that are more casual to where it's like, hey, maybe the Series S would be better. Like Dave, I would say, with his PlayStation right now, with buying, if PlayStation 4 was split up the same way, Dave would be a perfect, hey, I can go ahead and get the S. I can play all the games I want with Ricky, but I don't have to feel like, damn, I dropped fucking so much money on this console.
Yeah, and especially I think the main reason why it's a really good idea that Xbox made the Series S the cheaper alternative, besides, just the global pandemic and how America's economy is looking, which obviously I know Xbox isn't going to only sell in America, but, Xbox doesn't sell well outside of America, so, there's that. But I think it's also, it kind of helps people move to next gen quicker, because the problem that Xbox has always had of it's a slow trickle of people switching to next gen, to where now it's, if you have the money to get the Series X, boom, you can get it. Like, if you want it, you can get it. Or they basically have it, they're like, hey, we understand not everyone has a job, not everyone has a lot of disposable income. Here you go. Here's the Series S. Like, obviously, once again, not as strong as the X. You can still play the next-gen games with your friends. You can still do all of that stuff for a much cheaper price tag. And I think that's something that, I think going forward, I think if this is a good launch for Microsoft, I think we could start seeing, like, Sony and Microsoft repeat this process over and over again of making two different consoles at launch. And the reason I think that is just because the problem with next gen is always, how long is it going to take people to trickle in to the point of where it's like, okay, we can stop focusing on last gen.
The question that I want to ask you, and this is what I'm kind of thinking about, is kind of a two-parter. And the first part we'll look at, because this means a lot to where it's like, it's great, we've got the Series S out there, it's confirmed. Because for a while, too, we had been talking Soapy, where it's like, well, Xbox kind of doesn't feel like it wants to announce that the Series S is even going to happen. But we had seen things like controller packaging and stuff to where it's like, no, this is probably going to be a thing. And now it's nice to have it announced and know, hey, we are getting two separate consoles. I want to compare this to Xbox to PlayStation. Not really a war thing, but like, if you're a PlayStation person, what does this mean for the information that we're going to get about PlayStation? Because the last time we heard anything was the big reveal in June. And at that point, PlayStation announced they're also going to have a PS5 standard version and a PS5 digital edition. They didn't say anything beyond that. They didn't say whether one was going to have less hard drive than the other, if the digital is basically going to be their version of the Series S from Xbox. They just said one's going to be digital, one's not. So everyone kind of assumed it was like, oh, they're just going to have two PS5s, but you could go the digital route if you want to. The thing I want to ask you first is, because Xbox is going to have this second console, is PlayStation, do you think that it's going to be more of a route of the digital edition is the same as the PS5, just it's digital and it doesn't have the disc drive? Or is there a possibility PlayStation reveals like, hey, the digital edition is going to be different from the PS5 because it's almost going to be the same case as the Series S?
With Sony, it's such a weird thing, especially because obviously I don't really pay attention to Sony that often.
Yeah.
So hearing them do that, I just think Sony would probably just get rid of the disc drive in one of them. Like, I don't think Sony would really make two separate consoles.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, they're technically doing it because of there's digital and non-digital. then there's still technically 2. But like, I don't think they would do like. I don't think they would take the route of what Xbox is doing.
Yeah, I agree.
I think
I agree.
with this one, it's literally just one doesn't have the capability of using discs. Like, I don't see Sony stepping into that same lane as Microsoft with that one.
Well, and the reason why I agree with you too is it kind of goes back to what I have said about the two companies, where PlayStation is all on we got the exclusives. We've got exclusive games that you can only play on PlayStation, where Xbox is kind of, their MO has kind of been like Game Pass. We've got Game Pass, we've got Game Pass, we got Game Pass. And yet again, using the word casual in this sense of, if you're going to be someone that even like, I'm just going to play my games on Game Pass. And it's like, I play many of the older games, not even like the newer games that come out. The Series S fits that better, to where it's like, hey, if you're going to be someone that plays the smaller games, if you're going to be someone that uses Game Pass, like you don't have to buy the big one. You can buy the small one. The second question I was going to ask is November 10th. That's when Xbox comes out. Sony probably had a date in mind, but three choices. Does the PS5 come out before, the same day, or same like proximity? Before, same proximity, or after the Xbox? Because we have heard nothing on PlayStation, and does this even force PlayStation to reveal when the PS5 is coming out?
I think they fall about in the same range as each other. I don't think that either one of them kind of moves their start date. But I mean, who knows, dude? Maybe Sony's just really petty. What if Sony's basically the equivalent of a WWE and being like, nah, we're gonna try to directly compete with you, and then lose every week.
Like, hey, we're gonna come out on the 10th also. Like, yeah. I mean, the thing I'm looking at is, let's see, Black Friday 2020 this year is the 27th. So November 10th, that means that, and yet again, this is the Series S. We're assuming the Series X would come out the same date. I wouldn't think it comes out after, but if you have both of those on November 10th, which is a Tuesday, that means you have 2 full weeks gearing up, basically 2.5 weeks gearing up until Black Friday. And with Sony, it just comes down to, do they do an end of October to get in front of, because here's the thing, if you're going to do the end of October, you better make that announcement soon. Hell, if you're even going to do November, you better make that announcement soon. Like, I wonder if Sony was like, because I'm not a fly on the wall in their office, I wonder what their plans were to reveal, and does this affect anything at all? Were they expecting Xbox to reveal now? Did they not know? And this kind of sideblinds them. Like, I'd love to be a fly on the room in the Sony Interactive Entertainment offices, basically to be like, okay, what does this mean for the reveal of the release date of the PS5? I will ask you to kind of end this. I'm going to say we don't wait long. I'm going to say by the latest, and this is like the absolute latest, first full week of October. But I could see the basically last full week of September, so the week of the 21st, we are getting here's when the PS5 is coming out. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we see, like, I think it's any day now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they wait until the end of the month, especially because
of the buzz that's going on.
Sony. Yeah, I mean, it may even be Sony's waiting for Microsoft to say something about the X, because that's the one I think they're going to be directly competing with.
Yeah.
Like, I think more or less, like, I mean, we all kind of knew for like a whole year now the S was coming.
Mm-hmm.
It was just for Microsoft to announce it. But I think basically they're kind of just in a situation of like, like, do we really care?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like that's not the one we're competing with.
We'll just wait for you to announce your big console, because we're not coming out with the 2 consoles. Technically they're doing 2, but it's like 1A, 1B instead of 1 and then 2.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if, like, about the same time that we get Xbox One X news, we get PlayStation 5 news.
Yeah.
So especially because I don't want to be like, oh, they're being petty. But, like, it's
really
Sony, I feel like, would
know.
do that.
Like, we don't know. Neither of us are inside the offices, you know?
I wish I was.
I wish I was, too. I mean, I'd have a job at Sony. But let's move away from next gen a little bit and go into Nintendo had some big, I'm going to say big news today. Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity.
I could have swore to God you were about to say Age of Chlamydia.
I
got real worried.
I almost said Calamity, and I'm like, that is not right at all. Age of Calamity announced. So this is a set. It's kind of going with the game of. It follows the. I'm just going to let IGN talk about it. Nintendo has announced Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity in a new game set 100 years before The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and it will release on Switch in November 2020. Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity will allow players to learn more about Zelda, the four champions, Mipha, Rivali, Urbosa, and Daruk, the King of Hyrule, and more through dramatic cutscenes as they try to save the kingdom from Calamity. The new game, which is being developed by Koei Tecmo, and will let players experience the Great Calamity reference in the Breath of the Wild for themselves, will have Link, Zelda, and more use their distinct abilities to try to take down everything from barbaric Bokobins to towering Lynels. In addition, the Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity supporting local two-player co-op and will also challenge players to solve environmental puzzles, unlock weapons and skills, craft and gather materials, visit shops to obtain items, and use the power of the Shuriken Slate. The other news we got, Soapy, is because of this, they mentioned Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 fans will have to wait a bit longer. In this announcement that they made for the game, they basically had, what was his name? Eli Onuma basically said that the team is working hard on the long-awaited sequel, and he asked the fans to give a bit more patience until new updates arrive, as they are still working on Breath of the Wild. So, Soapy, I mean, you could say I was half right, but I'm going to take the L for this one, because I did say, we talked about, hey, there's going to be a Zelda game coming out. Is it going to be Breath of the Wild 2? I did double down and I said we're getting Breath of the Wild for this November. Technically, you could say I'm half right because it's a Zelda game, but I'm taking the L because it's not Breath of the Wild 2. You hate to see it. Sometimes that happens, but how excited should Zelda fans be for a Age of Calamity game? Because when I was going on Twitter, looking through the Zelda fans to see what most of them thought, there were a lot of them on Twitter that basically had the mindset of like, oh, great, Zelda's becoming the Kingdom Hearts of Nintendo.
I mean, I personally, for me, like, I gotta give context for this.
Yeah.
I did not like the first Hyrule Warriors game.
Okay.
And the reason why? It's a Dynasty Warriors clone. And
yep. I remember Mark playing it.
Yep. And if you are a Dynasty Warriors clone, you gotta at least get the one thing right that Dynasty Warriors does, where it's like the ultimate beat-em-up.
Yeah.
If your game is boring as a beat-em-up, there's no point that I want to beat 'em up. The only thing I want to beat up is myself for spending money on a bad beat 'em up.
So that's point one, that you didn't like the first Hyrule Warriors, and that makes you worried for this one.
Yeah. And two, it's why are we getting another Hyrule Warriors?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I understand, like, there are people out there who like it, which is understandable. Like, it's the same thing with, like, there are games that, like, when they come out, it's just kind of like everyone's like, hey, why is this happening? But there's the select few people who are like, oh my god, finally! I've been waiting my whole adult life for this game. Which, yeah. I'm just saying, I'm not trying to be an asshole, but if you've been waiting your whole life for Hyrule Warriors, you gotta just look for something else.
Well, I will say I kind of agree with the with the comments I saw on Twitter of this sounds very Kingdom Hearts to me, where like I feel like it's kind of like it, but it's not, to where like Kingdom Hearts, when I came into 3, I apparently missed a ton. Because they were going to reference things in games I didn't play. I just thought it was like, oh, 1, 2, and 3 are the main canon, but these side games have different side stories that don't pertain to the actual story, which is fine. In that sense, I feel like this Zelda game, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, is going to be different because, yes, it's giving you a non-real Zelda game while giving you a Zelda game. But it's not a sense of, if you skip this game and you go straight into Breath of the Wild 2, you're not going to miss anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, because this is set 100 years before Breath of the Wild 1, it's really a sense of, well, hey, great. If you love the story from Breath of the Wild 1, you want to actually learn about what set up that game, cool, you're going to like this. But if you basically say, nah, the first Hyrule Warriors burned me, I'm not going to play this one, it's not like you have to play it sounds like you don't have to play this one in order to get the story for Breath of the Wild 2.
Yeah. And that's always a good thing of when it's like with a side game that takes a spin-off from your game. I always have said it is never a good thing to force people to go out and buy one of the spin-off games, especially when it's not in the same style as your game you normally make.
Yeah.
Because, and this is going to sound really like a really weird comparison. Like, I compare what they're doing with this kind of something that's similar, like what happens in Dark Souls. Is you can basically play Dark Souls 2 ways. You can read every item description and piece the world together yourself.
Okay.
Or just play through the game without reading anything. And the reason, like, the whole thing is, if you are invested in Dark Souls world and you want to know more about it, reading every item is good for that.
But if
because
you
then
don't,
you can piece together. Yeah, you're not missing anything if you don't. Like, obviously, like, yeah, you're missing, like, lore stuff. But even at that, like, dude, Dark Souls lore is pretty fucking easy. It's basically shit went bad. It used to be good. Now real bad.
Used to be good. Now it's bad. It used to be bad, then good, now really bad. Like, you know, tale as old as time, right? Beauty and the Beast taught me that.
Yeah. I mean, every single Disney movie has told us that. Hell, every Pixar movie has told us that a little bit, too.
Yeah, I mean, Pixar was bought by Disney, though, right? So technically Pixar is Disney now, but, like, yeah, I was originally hyped when I saw this on Twitter, but then I learned what it was, and I was like, oh, okay. A Zelda game I'm not going to play, because I'll be honest, I really like what happened with the Calamity. It's not something that, me personally, it's not something that I'm like, hey, I got to dive into that. I got to see what's going on. Plus, I didn't play the first Hyrule Warriors because guess what? I'm not a really big, like, I didn't play Dynasty Warriors. I wasn't a big Dynasty Warriors guy. So, like, that game didn't, like, reach out to me. So, hey, if you like it, you like it. But hey, it's not like you have to play this in order to get what they're going to do at Breath of the Wild 2. But Soapy, before we move on to our last topic, let's go through some shorter stories in a segment we love to do called Shorty But A Goodie. And we got quite a bit because we're adding some for today, but then we have some from yesterday because my stream was fucking up, and it's been good today. Thank you, OBS, for being a good boy. But the first thing that we're talking about today, Soapy, is we have a Madden 21 update that is lighting the world on fire, Soapy. It is official. Madden tweeted out today a picture of Colin Kaepernick's face in the game and said, "Welcome back, Cap." They then replied to it with this saying, they said, "Colin Kaepernick is one of the top free agents in football and a starting caliber quarterback. The team at EA Sports, along with millions of Madden NFL fans, want to see him back in our game. We've had a long relationship with Colin through Madden NFL and worked through our past soundtrack mistakes. Knowing that our EA Sports experiences are platforms for players to create, we want to make Madden NFL a place that reflects Colin's position and talent, rates him as a starting QB, and empowers our fans to express their hopes for the future of football. We've worked with Colin to make this possible, and we're excited to bring it to all of you today. Starting today in Madden NFL 21, fans can put Colin Kaepernick at the helm of any NFL team in franchise mode, as well as play with him in Play Now. We look forward to seeing Colin on Madden NFL teams everywhere. Madden 21. Soapy, how big of a deal is this?
I mean, it's cool to see Colin Kaepernick back. Like, I don't know exactly how... I don't want to say, like, how to feel about it. Mm-hmm. But I'm kind of like, okay, how much of this... Like, and I don't like being one of those people of like, oh, they're only doing this to get good publicity. But I mean,
it helps. You can't say that it does not help. It helps.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like, I'm not saying it doesn't help. Mm-hmm. But how much of this is because, since you don't have Madden, they have a literal loading screen of where basically... It's like a whole, like, oh, if you discriminate people on this, and it's like a whole loading screen of like, oh, you know, like, it's like EA positive or something like that.
The shit I don't read anyways, because it's just like the terms of service.
Yeah. Like, I wonder how much it's trying to play into that. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, obviously, you know, it's EA, you know, with Madden 20 did have some very rough moments because you remember the mm-hmm. shooting that happened at their one event, right?
Yep. It rocked the gaming world on fire when that happened. And, like, watching the film of that, no one expected it. And, like, watching the film of that and, like hearing people have to duck and, like, basically get undercover, it was like, holy shit, at a Madden event? Really?
Yeah, so I think with the way that they're doing this, I think it's them also kind of throwing their hat into the ring of, you know, they probably also believe Cap got blackballed. I think there's a bit of truth to it. I'm not going to say my own opinion on that. Yeah. Because I don't want to get in trouble for it.
I mean, you wouldn't get in trouble, but I understand what you're saying.
Well, no, it's it's more or less of... I don't want to say, like, oh, Cap isn't in the league because of his own fault. Like, I think it's a mixture of, like, teams were kind of like, we want to distance ourselves from the kneeling thing. Yeah. But also kind of the way he handled some things.
Well, here, I will go ahead and say this, and this is, before I start, this is a me opinion. Soapy does not have, I don't know if Soapy has his opinion of me, or of the situation. I don't know if Dave does. This is a Ricky Widmer opinion. I feel like he was blackballed for kneeling. However, there were things like one thing I can point out, the time where they like showed a picture of him at practice and he had those socks that had pig faces with cop hats on. It's something where it's like, and I said this on the Onside Kick when we talked about it at the time, it's like, I see the message you're giving, but you're kind of taking away from that message. It's like something in that sense of where it's like some of the decisions Colin did make probably could have been gone the other way. But I will say I do believe he was blackballed for kneeling during the national anthem by the NFL because owners wanted to, like you said, distance themselves from him.
Yeah, and I think that's basically where I fall. So, like, obviously, once again, it's nice to see Cap back in the game. Mm-hmm. It's mostly just, I almost wonder, are they going to make him too high of an overall?
He's an 81.
And my whole...
Ooh, yeah, he's an 81.
Yeah, so this is then definitely where I'm going to kind of sound like an asshole. Well, didn't he get benched before his final season?
So that was... He did, like... The reason he got benched was basically, like, the guy behind him was Alex Smith. They were two very good quarterbacks, is what I'm saying. So I don't know if his benching really had to do with him being a bad quarterback. It was just they weren't winning games, and he had Alex Smith behind him, and like they had a weird thing where like he took Alex's job, and then Alex took his job after a couple seasons. So like it wasn't anything that I would say pointed directly into, oh, he bad quarterback, he lost job.
Okay. Yeah, well, because it's whenever you see the idea that, like, he got benched, that's when it's kind of like, okay, you know, like, is he as good as some people remember? Like, that was kind of my thought. Like, obviously, once again, I openly admit I don't watch football anymore. So, like, I'm willing to be told I'm wrong.
Yeah,
so.
I'm just like, and that's just me. Yeah, looking at the picture, he's an 81 overall, and what we could see is, like, his agility and acceleration are an 88 and an 87. But he's also one where if you sign him, you'll have to sign him to a $21 million contract. He's going to take a almost $6 million cap hit compared to the 1.04 cap hit that a McNown would take, a Josh McNown would take.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, like, I don't really have much else to say on him. You know, I'm just happy Cap's back in the game.
Yeah, and moving on, this one's going to be shorter than the Cap news. Soapy is so I am going to pitch to you Razer's newest gaming accessory. And I'm going to ask you, Soap, are you going to dive into it? So Razer is, I'll just read it straight from the Verge article. Razer's latest gaming accessory is chewing gum aimed at boosting your focus and reaction time in games. The company teamed up with 5 Gum from Mars, Wrigley, to make Respawn 5 Gum in 3 flavors: Cool Mint, Tropical Punch, and Pomegranate Watermelon. The gum is available starting today at $3 per 15 pack and $30 per 10 pack, or 15 stick pack and $30 per a 10 pack of those 15 stick packs. Razer says this gum was developed with an intensive amount of R&D, part of which came from studying the daily regimens, gaming schedules, and snacking habits of casual and pro gamers. If you were turned off by the high amount of caffeine in the drink mix, you might like that chewing the gum's only source of caffeine is from the green tea extract within the recipe. Razer says it wanted to develop a product that can be consumed at any time of the day or night to keep gamers focused, but not continuously affect them once the game was over. Interestingly, the gum is black, but Razer's reviewer's guide for the gum made sure to note that it won't turn your mouth black. Good to know. Soapy, are you going to be trying Respawn by 5 Gum?
No. That's all I got. Just no.
If I bought you a pack, would you review it?
No.
You wouldn't review it for the channel if I got you a pack of Respawn? Let us,
if you paid for it, maybe.
Like, I would pay for the gum. I would send it to you. And basically, you would do a review for the show where basically does it help you with your reaction times and everything going on? Maybe we can get a new sponsor. Maybe Respawn can sponsor the show. Who knows?
I mean, dude, hey,
maybe you'll love it.
Respawn, slide into the DMs.
Maybe you'll love
Let's
it
make
so
this happen.
much. The next Shorty But A Goodie we got is Sonic to celebrate 30th anniversary with new games and major announcements in 2020. Sonic the Hedgehog, that's according to an advert. I read this a little bit yesterday, but it got cut off. An advert and licensing source book for Europe's Summer 2020 edition, originally published in July, which says the publisher is planning a celebration for the year of its mascot, including new games, digital content, major announcements, and tailored licensing programming. And Soapy, I don't know about you, I'm excited for this, mainly because they said new game. And I'm excited, but I'm cautious because I love Sonic Adventure. I love Sonic Adventure 2, but there have been a few Sonic games that haven't been so good. On the further down you go, into the PS3, PS4, Xbox One, Xbox 360, like those days. So I'll ask you, what are your thoughts, and should Sonic fans be excited that we're just going to get a new game, depending on no matter what it is?
I mean, I think Sonic fans should be excited. Every time I just think of Sonic fans, I think of the one video. Have you seen the video where it's like the little kid and he's getting really mad about all the Sonic games?
Yes.
And it's when will you learn your actions have consequences? That's all I can imagine. So, if that little kid gets happy, more power to him,
like I said, I can't wait. I love Sonic. I love his games. I loved his movie. But yeah, there have been some Sonic games. There's especially, I think it's a Sonic game that I played on the Xbox that like put Sonic in a real world, like with real people. And I was like, you actually had to like talk to people. And I was like, this is a fucking horrible game. I don't remember what it was called, so don't ask me. But moving on, Soaps, we're going to talk about some Borderland news. This is right up your alley. I'm basically going to let you take it away after I kind of introduce it. Borderlands 3 Year 2 DLC may not include new Vault Hunters, but it should do one thing instead. This article from Game Rant. Recently, Gearbox CEO Randy Pitchfork lit a fire up
it's Pitchford, not Pitchfork.
It's Pitchford. I said Pitchfork, didn't I?
Yep.
Randy Pitchfork. Thank you, Soapy. Pitchford, as I think I said it, Pitchfork again. Pitchford lit a fire up the Borderlands 3 community when he teased a second year's worth of DLC content. The wording suggested that Gearbox hadn't yet decided on a course, but the first year of BL3 has been rather remarkable, with it coming to a close with the brand new Krieg-focused DLC in the coming days. Many debated what BL3 should add, with a variety of answers across the board. The general consensus appears to be that everyone is down for new DLC, but the form it should take varies from fan to fan. However, the most requested addition is also the unlikeliness. Many fans want new Vault Hunter DLC. Soapy, what are your thoughts? You're a Borderlands 3 player. You love the game. You're excited for the Krieg DLC that comes out this week. If you were coming up with year 2 of DLC, what would you want to see as a BL3 fan?
I'd like to see Vault Hunters, but I know they've basically doubled down on not wanting to make any more Vault Hunters.
Do you know why? Have they said why?
It was something about it became too hard to balance all of them.
Okay.
Because, for instance, it was basically for Borderlands 2, the entire lifespan of the game, Salvador, one of the characters, was the most broken character to the game, and it wasn't even close.
Okay.
And they couldn't find a way to balance him that also, because the whole thing was they didn't want to like nerf characters. That was the whole thing. They were like, oh, we don't want to nerf abilities, and they didn't want to nerf guns just because Salvador was so good. So it was like they couldn't really do anything. Obviously, this year they basically said fuck that, and they just nerf characters all the time now because that's what they did with Flak.
Yeah.
But like, I wish they would do characters, but I get the reason why. I think my whole thing is you need to add things to the characters, because I'm not calling it, the characters are already kind of boring.
Like they've been recycled a little bit through like BL1, 2, and then 3.
Well, like, they're unique because they all have like 3 different abilities you can choose from. It's mostly just like, okay, this game's been out for a whole year.
These are the only ones we've been able to play as.
Yeah. Of like, bring something new to these characters that we haven't had before.
Yeah, well,
because like, I know they've talked about adding like new skill trees to them, and I'm fine with that. The only thing is though, how far do you go with some of the skill trees? Because that's the problem. Because then you have to add extra abilities into the game, and that may be harder than making new characters.
And you don't want it to be like, for the skill trees, a convoluted mess either. Like, the more you get complex with it. But like, I also think of like, you can look at other games. Look at World of Warcraft. Look at Overwatch, where it's like, the more like, I would say WoW would be a good example because it's kind of in the same way. Like, it's not exactly the same game, but it's in that I create a character in this world kind of a situation, whereas WoW is more like, I want to use the word sandboxy, where it doesn't have like a linear story that you're going on. You can kind of have paths to get to your end game, whereas Borderlands has a story, but it's like after a while, when you come out with it, think of the DLCs as like expansions almost to your game. When you come out with more expansions, more classes help mix things up. And I know, like, I don't know, maybe this is just me being an outsider to this, but like when I hear, oh, it'd be too hard to kind of, what's the terminology you use? Too hard to balance the characters. I almost look at that and go, oh, so that's kind of a pussy answer to me. If I'm going to say something that, like, put it in a term that maybe is a little foul language, of the sense of basically it comes down to the sense of you're taking the easy way out in that sense, where it's like, I don't want to hear that it was like, oh, it's too hard to balance, because I look at a game like Overwatch, more characters, I know different gameplay, but more characters, and they're able to balance it, and balancing characters is going to be hard. I know it's not easy, but like, I don't know. I look at that answer and I kind of look at it as like a cheap answer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, the only thing is though, I think using Overwatch as an example is kind of, I don't want to say cop out because I don't want to sound like an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like,
it's a different
with Borderlands.
Game. It's different.
Yeah, it's like comparing Borderlands to like World of Warcraft and stuff like that is not a fair comparison because it's two completely different ways you balance a game.
Good point.
Because with Blizzard there is PvP.
Mm-hmm.
With Borderlands there's not. The only time there's PvP is like if you duel somebody. But even at that, if you duel someone in Borderlands, your life is boring.
Yeah, I just like those are me going into my wheelhouse to where it's like, maybe I'll ask you of, like, when you hear that answer as a Borderlands fan, does it make you feel anything of like where I was coming from, of like, not the, I understand, but like the, come on guys, like I know balancing's going to be hard, but like, don't you want to give the fans what they want? Like, don't you, like, is it wrong to look at it from a like cop out aspect of like, oh, you're just saying that because you don't want to deal with new Vault Hunters?
I mean, there's a place of where I view it as that, but there's also a side of like, I saw how fucking unbalanced and an absolute mess Borderlands 2 was. Of like, raid bosses are supposed to be hard. There were people who one-shot raid bosses.
Good point.
Like, balancing a game like Borderlands is insanely hard.
Yep.
And like, that's why I get why they don't want to do that. And like, and it's balancing games along that line is difficult because with Borderlands, especially since it's basically you play with your friends, you don't want a character to feel weak.
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, if you start buffing a character, it starts changing the complete dynamic of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Because then it's like, let's say, like I'll do Borderlands 2 because there's more options. Like, let's say Krieg was really good for like the first two playthroughs. On the final playthrough, absolute as shit.
Yeah.
If you buffed him an absolute shit ton to make him viable, he's then the best Vault Hunter in the game, and then there's no purpose to play the other one.
Mm-hmm.
So then you have to somehow try to bring them up, and it just creates this power creep of like, there's no way everyone can be balanced.
Mm-hmm.
I think with the 4 Vault Hunters that they have, there is a easy way to make them balanced. Like, obviously, there's still going to be the one that reigns above, which probably right now is Zane or Amara.
Mm-hmm.
But even at that, it's also just because their abilities just work a lot better than Moe's and Flax.
Yeah.
But even at that, it's... They, like, Moe's and Flax both still have their place. Of where it was with Borderlands 2, you couldn't play Axton, because Axton was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And Zero was only good for one skill.
Yeah.
So it's hard to find balance in a game like Borderlands.
Yeah. Last thing we'll bring up for Shorty But A Goodie, this is just kind of like a mention thing. It looks fucking cool. Under, a PT-like horror game. Under gets an October release. And this is what the game basically is from IGN. Set on an abandoned sinking ocean liner in the aftermath of a torpedo strike. Under has you playing as World War I veteran Alexander Doctor and attempting to escape the flooding lower decks and hostile entities stalking the halls. It came out with a brand new trailer. You can watch it now on YouTube. Soapy, I don't know about you. This is a game where if the masses want to see it, I would play this for the masses. I don't know. I usually don't do well with horror. I get scared easily, so it might be a good watch. But what is your thought about Under, and would you think about giving it a try?
I definitely will, because they compared it to PT, and to me, PT was one of those things of, I almost wanted to say Kojima. I think he's the one who made, I think Kojima was the one making PT.
Yeah.
Like, if he went through with it, I think PT would have been the best horror game of our generation.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, I think it would have easily, like, obviously I know there's more, like, indie horror games. And then people would be like, well, actually, that game's not even close when you look at this game. When like, I don't want those people, but, like, for instance, like, how people view Outlast is, like, one of the better horror games of our generation. I think it would, like, trump that.
Okay.
I really don't think it would be, like, a competition, because, like, that's the guy who made Resident Evil. Like, basically, the original horror game.
Yeah.
Like, these are people that know horror.
Dude,
watching
the trailer...
Actually, no, never mind. I was wrong. It wasn't... They didn't make Resident Evil. They made Silent Hill.
Okay. Yeah, Resident Evil, I was like, I don't know. But, like, watching the trailer...
Yeah, because Capcom did that.
I was getting fucked up. Like, it was dark enough. You're like, okay, it's just some ambiance. And you're like, oh, shit, what was that moved across? And it's like, it almost gave me... With the entities, it almost gave me Amnesia vibes. Where it's like, oh shit, I gotta go and run, and then you turn around and you hide somewhere, and like as you turn around, boom, it's there. It's like, oh no, it caught me. Definitely looks interesting. I love how it's like, it seems like it's a setting too that is unique. How many fucking horror games are set on ocean liners that are sinking during World War I? Not many of them, but let's move in. The last thing we're going to talk about today, a little Crash Bandicoot news going on today, a little bit of a reveal. And today over on the PlayStation YouTube channel, they revealed gameplay. They were looking at gameplay for the game, and a new character was revealed for the game. Really new in air quotes, because she has been in Crash Bandicoot games before. But we got to see Tawna in the game. Basically how they're setting it up, if you're unfamiliar, Tawna is Crash's girlfriend. Back in the like Crash 1 days, I just usually remember her being the one that was like, you had the side level for the special boxes, and she'd be at the end of it. Like, she wasn't really a playable character. Over time, she's been in more of them. She's going to be a playable character in this game. From the little cutscene that they showed off, she kind of looks like, so she's got kind of like a Zarya kind of aspect to me, that like 80s vibe. Like, I'm thinking of the 80s Zarya skin. She looks exactly like that. Has the earrings, the little shaved head with the hair flip, like Cyberpunk, kind of in a sense. She has leg warmers on. And through the little short cinematic, maybe like 20 seconds, basically they land, they see Tawna, they're like, oh my god, Tawna, and she's like, oh my god, like, what happened to you guys? And it's kind of inferred that maybe the original Crash is dead for her timeline. So it's like, holy shit, we might be dealing with like different realities and multiverses and timelines in this new Crash game. And it looked like her gameplay, at least, as the dev was kind of talking about it and you could see it. I like what I'm seeing, Soapy, because it looks like that what the creators and the devs are doing with this Crash game is each person you play as is going to be a different play style, where, like they said, for her, hers is more quick. She's a more quick grappler. She's got a little hook that she can throw and kind of bring enemies in or jump across to like latch onto something. And watching it, you could see you move a lot quicker as her, and she's all about like quickness and a bit like basically I don't want to say dodging, but quickness and kind of like being more of an agile character. What are your thoughts on this? We'll wrap it up with your thoughts, and then we'll wrap everything up.
I mean, it's always nice to see new things that they're adding to games. Once again, I'm not a huge Crash Bandicoot guy, so Like, this is kind of more of like just like, okay, cool. Like, it's nice to know they're bringing back old characters. Like, obviously, she wasn't playable before, or at least if she was, it was like for very minor parts of the game.
Yeah, I think she was more playable as the series went on, but like definitely Crash 1 and 2, she was not playable.
Yeah, so I mean, it's always nice to see that they're finally, adding in this character that, I mean, I don't know if she's been a fan favorite or not, because I don't keep up with the Crash Bandicoot fans.
I would say she is. Fans were excited that she got announced. At least the comment section when I watched the video was excited.
Well, I read the comment sections, and half of them aren't even about her as like being like, "Oh my god, she's in the game." It's like, holy fuck, she's I'm not going to repeat what they say in the comments, but just know it's
Let's put it this way, and I will say this as PG as I can. Her main role in the original game, and I'm talking Crash Bandicoot 1, was to be a looker. That's how I'm going to put it. But she was more there for like, ooh, she's Crash's hot girlfriend. It's nice that she actually has a personality in this. And it kind of seems like a fun personality. And she's going to be an actual character that like talks and is a part of the story.
Yeah, I mean, the people in the comment section on YouTube did not pay attention to that personality. They paid attention to something else.
Yeah, her, I'll say it. She looks like she's got a Bailey booty. That's what I'll say. Okay. Is that along the lines of what the comment section was saying?
Yeah, basically.
She's got cake. If you like cake, you're going to like Tawna, basically is what I'll say. If you like cake, you'll like Tawna. Am I wrong, Soaps?
So, I mean, if that's up to you.
So he's like, I am uncomfortable. But that'll end the show. Another MVP Games Live awkwardly gets put into the books. Make sure to join the Discord channel, link down below, or !Discord into Twitch chat. Get you the link to join that community, a great community of all the people from the real MVP family. Also, patreon.com/MVP vids is how you help support the channel. Thank you to our Patreon supporters, Pat Hill and Philly Sean. And then last but not least, we do the show Monday through Friday, live here, twitch.tv/MVP vids. But we also, shows will go up on MVP Entertainment on YouTube. Also, there's other things, my Avenger gameplay, Mulan review, other videos going up on the YouTube as well, DC fandom videos, everything that is different than the show you're watching right here. So go ahead and subscribe to that on YouTube and check those out. But that's going to do it for this Tuesday. Soapy and I will be back tomorrow for Wednesday, giving you more gaming news. That's going to do it for us. And as always, have a good day, everybody.
Bye.